And then I'm last. Well, all right, boys, we got episode 3 going here. Got it. Last one. I'm the last one on the goddamn podcast again. This is, it's turning into a theme.
I mean, it's kind of like a period. Better late than never.
Hey, you know what? I've never been disappointed. Well, maybe I'm not disappointed is the wrong word. I've never been upset to hear I just got my period. That's like the biggest, like,
week.
Yeah. Made it another month.
Strawberry shortcake week.
The body's way of celebrating. Instead of a piñata, it's just the strawberry road.
Yeah, making some Bavarian cream pies.
Shawnee, how are you drinking your coffee this morning?
Out of an America mug.
Well, but what is it? Is it black? Is there cream?
It's Craig colored. No,
it's Craig colored.
No, it's it's like a very dark brown. There is some cream in there, but not a lot. You know.
Boo! Black ice, baby.
Listen, man, I'm trying to keep calories in my body right now. I will take them from any source. I fucking skinny bitch. Well, not skinny, but after moving and everything, I got down to like 264 from like 273 over the course of like a weekend.
Oh,
just from not eating and then being dehydrated and moving, going up and down stairs, 3 flights of stairs 20 times a day.
Withering away.
Yeah, I know. I should join the USAPL.
Sean's under 300 pounds. He definitely does not have a 2,300-pound total.
Listen, I'm on here by proxy of you two. I get to shave, I think, some weight off of your guys' totals and add to mine. So
no, it's the client average total.
Yeah,
the client average total. I gotta fire some people.
So the topic for today, we've got 2 big topics. We've got the Croquetta Classic recap, because Craig just absolutely killed it there, set a new squat record. And we also want to discuss the programming that it takes to develop a 2,300 total, because we've got Shane, Craig, and I've got a different method that I took to 2,300 than you guys, and Sean's the brains of the operation.
The development. He's the Frankenstein to the Frankenstein's monsters.
Of
volume.
I like to call him the Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan.
The Phil Jackson.
That's giving me too much credit.
Craig, do I get to be the Bulls or are you going to be the Lakers?
I like to think I'm the Dwight Schrute to your Jim. I'm just pushing you to that extra level of, greatness in the office. I'm enabling you via my antics.
Enabling, not supporting.
Enabling is
Wilkers.
I am supportive, but
enable comes like with the context of like you're doing something kind of bad, but I'm just gonna say it's for a greater good. We're gonna let you do it anyway.
I guess to give some perspective, there's now a running joke between me and my girlfriend Gabby. But this is like where I joke. I'm like, this is why my coaching's $10, because she bought like an online booty program from Instagram, and like she keeps coming up to me and asking me questions, and I'm like, I keep saying like, is that in line with your goals? Why are you doing that? Is that on your program? Why are you doing that? Like, she's like, I'm going to go do 30 minutes of cardio. I'm like, aren't you trying to gain weight? Aren't you trying to build legs? She's like, yeah. I'm like, why are you doing cardio? I just want to walk. I'm like, is it because you want to walk or you want to be skinny? Like, I want to lose fat. Like, you can't do the same things at the same time. Stop. And she's like, I'm like, this is why it's $10 a week, because I'm not bullshitting you. Like, I'm not holding your hand. I'm just saying, nope, that's fucking stupid. But
when Pat and I used to first talk on Instagram, we would talk about like our different coach. Like it was last year before the Ghost Clash, and he was still working with Poppy, Greg Panora, and we would like try and like one up each other on like the level of like unattentiveness of like coaching. As far as like I'd be like, yeah, I'll send Sean like videos for weeks. Like if I get like a heart on one of them, like I'm stoked about it. And Greg's like, or Pat would be like, oh yeah, Greg, like he'll show up to meets, doesn't load weights, doesn't want to do this. Like he's like, we would go back and forth with it. But like, it's like the less is more kind of a thing where like, you're almost like it's like a Yoda kind of a thing. I feel like with your programming, where it's like if you can get through all like the BS of like you're not going to have a super handheld the entire time. You're going to have to do a lot of application yourself. I'm going to give you tidbits and trinkets, a little bit of it, and then after a certain point, you're going to have to kind of figure this out on your own. But like when you can continue on along that path and just continue to sit there and buy into it, it pays off. Like, you're going to have to get through all the, you know what I mean? But
you know
like,
what I call that?
It's not
random reinforcement protocol. In psychology, when you randomly reinforce positive things, it's like how you get things to become habits out of animals. Like you gotta condition them first to be like positive and like, hey, this is a positive reward like cycle. And then you got to like back off because otherwise they're just food driven, right? You give a dog a treat when you teach them to sit. Eventually you got to stop giving them a treat every time. But every once in a while at random, you need to give them a treat for doing it, right? And so it's like that causes the animal to hardwire that. And then like they make their own reward and dopamine response out of it. I wouldn't say I did that with any kind of master design or plan. If I'm being honest, it's just kind of how it works out with me and my personality. Like when somebody's new, I'm very much more hands-on invested. Yeah. But like once you get it, like I'm not giving you a fucking cookie because you did all your sets. Like, this is a sport. You're trying to compete. Like if you're coming to me, like I don't take a lot of clients anymore. Like I have like 10 right now because I just don't. It's not valuable to me to have a bunch of fucking clients, you know. And most people find me. So it's like, why am I going to give you a cookie for doing what you're supposed to do? You came and found me because you wanted a specific type of program or you wanted certain guidance. So it's like, go do it. Like you bought it.
What's that movie Kill Bill where she like goes up into the woods to find like the ancient like Shaolin sensei and he's like an asshole to her and he's mean to her, but like she gets hella strong from it.
Yeah, what's his name? Shao Tzu or something like that?
I don't know, but he does the thing with his beard where he's like just throws it over his fucking shoulder.
That's beard goals right there.
He makes her break her hand and then she can't eat unless she uses the chopsticks.
And then but she can't use the chopsticks with her broken fucking fingers.
And he throws the rice on the floor. It's a great metaphor. If you want to eat like a dog.
It's kind of like coaching through daddy issues, kind of make them want to seek the approval by doing everything perfectly. And then suddenly daddy just comes in and says, "Atta girl."
Oh God, this is making me feel like this is bringing back service dom memories. My girlfriend's going to listen to this podcast and be like, damn it, Sean, why are you talking so much about our life?
Worse than your girlfriend, dude. Your mom's going to listen to this podcast.
Rebecca is a nice lady. Becky is so sweet. She's a tender soul. I don't have any mommy issues.
She learns more about my personal life the more podcasts that she hears.
Dude, she every once in a while texts me about an Instagram post. It's like, hey, so it's on this. I'm like, Mom, get off the internet.
Get off the internet.
You're 67. Like, get off.
Go home.
Go in your home.
Should be an age restriction for us.
All right. Anyway, so we're talking about the croquetta meat, right?
Yes. walk us through this immaculate meat that you had, starting from squats to deadlifts. Let's go. Like, even give us some tidbits about prep because, from what I understand, your prep was pretty. It was a new process for you after the Ghost Clash.
New process. I mean, because after the Ghost Clash, I initially wanted to take a whole year off and just lose weight and get away from powerlifting. I kind of burned myself out, and that's how Ghost Clash I went shit to bed. But then Shane started talking to me about doing this meet that was going to be in Utah, and I saw the money, and I was like, if someone else had a chance to win, I was like, if I get an invitation, I'll do the meet. And I did the training was very off because I basically wasn't squatting. I was bench shooting, deadlifting, but I wasn't really squatting. So I was basically going into prep to get ready. I basically had to relearn how to squat again and deal with like heavier weights and.
Well, your leverages were different too. Like you dropped about 20, 25 pounds.
20 pounds, yeah. I basically became a low bar squatter because I wasn't as wide as much. So it was throwing me off. Squats were pain. My hips were killing me. My knees were killing me. To the point where like I couldn't even squat every week. I had to do like every other week or every 2 weeks I was squatting. So I basically like took time away from squatting. So it took me basically had to teach myself, trust myself again and like everything to get back up and squatting. Bench and deadlift were not too bad. I always consistent with doing those, just squatting, like relearning that technique So, but
I
prep
was gonna say after the
overall-
ghost, that was your sixth prep, right?
Back
In a
to
row.
back.
No,
Yeah.
that was 4. That was 4 in a row. Fourth one in a row in what, 18, 17 months?
Yeah, but even before that, you didn't take like a whole year off. You took like 6 months between
Showdown 2020, Kern 2021, Showdown 2021, Ghost, and then this one.
Croquetta.
I mean, this
Yeah.
Croquetta, yeah.
Yeah, but in
So that you were-
2019, he did the wasn't that the
Throwdown.
one?
Throwdown. So
Throwdown, and then I didn't do a
meet
meet till, and then I didn't do it to Showdown 2020.
Yeah,
That
but
was
that's like
COVID,
okay,
yeah.
so that was like 9 months, I think.
Still a
Yeah.
good stretch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't my meat wise, I mean, squats, I felt like they were fucking clicking. I think everything felt light. My last warm up was 870, and that was just like 135. Then go
That's
up
what he
to
told me.
930. I was like, at that point, I was like, at 1041 was there. I felt it was, I believe it. Did 937 my opener. Ooh, amazing. Then I went to 1,008. That was I felt that was a fucking depth. I should have been counted, and they called me on depth, so I kind of was like, fuck, I don't know what to do.
But
Get
that was
to
the fastest
1025.
1,000. That was the fastest 1,000-pound squat you've ever done. Like that was
Yeah.
like, yoink.
Yeah, and I tied my and that was my PR squat and sleeve, so I tied that, and that kind of fucked up a little bit right there. That should have been the one, but I took the 1025 and I did good. So didn't realize after squats how tired I was after that. I kind of suffered a little bit on bench. I should have made better calls, a little bit better. Should have went a little bit lighter and just built the total.
I think you're going forward, dude, because I think we usually have the idea of like you go for a small PR in a second, and so like this is like 2 meets in a row now. We're like 606 is a big number, so it's like we gotta build up to that. Like
yeah.
I was like Pat. I was looking at Pat's thing from the American Pro. He took 3 attempts, but they were all within like 30 pounds of each other, 40 pounds. He went was it 600, Pat, or 606?
Whatever the kilogram 600 first, whatever.
He went 600, 628, and then a little bit above that. So it's like
644.
He just took a bunch of attempts around there, but it was like he got what he needed, did a little more, and did a little more. And I think that's kind of how going forward, like when your next, the next meet we have in April, I think it just needs to be a little bit more concise bench attempts, and then, fixing some lockout stuff with the deadlift and everything, and just shoot for minimal progress on those, get the pounds that you think you should be able to get, as far as the weight wise, and then just get used to walking out squats. I don't see why. I know we were looking at it like, oh, let's just aim for 1,000-pound squat. I mean, I don't think there's any reason you can't take 2 steps and do 1041. If you know what I mean, like if you can sit there, if you did that, if you were that fast at the last meet, like you were saying, you don't have to do a whole lot with squat. You just have to refine it when you get there. But I think there's no reason that you can't just sit there and get good at the walkout. Like I've transitioned over to it. I haven't done it in 3 or 4 years, and 2019 was the last walkout meet I had. It's it's a skill. It's not anything that's like super scary or like it's like I don't want to go back to doing that. It's a pain in the ass, but at the same time, it's going to make that squat that much more clean when you go out and do it. And because like I said, after this last meet, dude, we always joke about it, best sleep squatter in the world, or we just say it in the gym. But like, I am very confident in saying that you definitely at this moment in time, you are the #1 sleeve squatter on the fucking face of the planet, which is badass to say because I train with you every day.
Yeah.
But like, and it's not even like a a hyperbole thing or whatever. But it's like at that meet, 1,008, fast as fuck. And then you do 1025. No one's even done that. No one's done that right now. Currently, Dan went for the 1025. He missed it. He did 1,003 in May. So that's recent. That's close enough. And then Jesus has done 1,000 in the gym.
135.
It's in the gym.
Yeah.
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
So, until he does it in the meet, dude, like I said, you're the fucking man right now, boys. So you should
I
fucking
feel
wear
confident that I can admit that now. I've always wanted to be, but like, no shadow of a doubt, I'm one of the best. I'm the best raw squatter in the world right now.
Yeah, not one of right now.
Yeah,
I am the
and overall,
best
I feel
person.
like I'm even in the conversation top squatters, even in reps. I'm in that conversation, like top 3, 4, 5 overall squatters in the world. So,
well, historically, it's been Ray, but Ray can't even squat 1,000 pounds right now. So the only 1,000-pound squatters are you and Dan right now in sleeves. No one else is even close.
Yeah.
And Dan doesn't have any.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, Dan's like his rap squat though is so far beyond yours. Is I'll give him credit. Like Dan is a phenomenal squatter, but he has like the skill and experience using wraps a lot more, and I think he gets a lot more out of wraps than you do. Because like when you squatted 1,025 in wraps, and then we came back and did it in sleeves, which is great progress. Like that's fucking phenomenal. But like you also squatted 1,008 in sleeves and then did 1,025 in wraps. That's not a lot out of wraps, and like that's where I'm like, also based on like the way your body is built and stuff like that. Like I don't. Usually wraps are meant to, give you, compression and spring and kind of dead stop you. Like you hardly hit depth as it is because your body dead stops you with your leverages, which is great because it helps you rebound with, but so I don't know. I think I have mixed feelings about putting you in wraps and seeing where you go.
I don't think Craig ever wants to go back in those again.
Yeah. But as far as sleeves go, like I don't think Dan's anywhere. I mean, he's not that he's not anywhere, not that he can't do it. But I mean, having talked to Dan at the meet, like he's kind of like in a hiatus status right now. Like his gym is closed because of the hurricane. He's not been training. He's just kind of enjoying life right now. And he was kind of like coin toss on whether he was going to compete in April or not. So like barring Dan just like deciding like, fuck it, we ball and like going straight into prep, like, you've got a little bit of a head start on anyone else catching up to you right now, as long as you stay healthy. And keep training at least somewhat consistently to keep your progress, and then be able to do a prep when you want.
Yeah, I've been transitioning into sleeves right now as well as the squat shoes, and it feels like a technical difference between wraps and sleeves. There's you almost have to fight the wraps to get to a certain point, and then not that it helps, but it's more of a mental difference between I'm going to blow my knee out versus I'm not going to blow my knee out. It's almost like the difference between high jump and long jump, where there isn't really much, like high jump, they don't jump as far. Long jump, they jump further, but the air time is similar, kind of, I think. That doesn't make
it's the application of the effort almost. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's also like in the difference between like high jump and long jump. Like let's think about like the eccentric loading in that when they crash, right? So like long jump, you're jumping into a sand pit.
Yeah.
Right. And like the shearing stress on like ACL and knees when you're decelerating isn't really present too much because you're mostly sliding and you land kind of you're trying to land on your feet enough that you tip forward.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of roll through it. Right. Long jump or high jump, when they jump over the bar, like they land on their backs on a pad.
Yeah.
So like there is no inhibition of max force output there because you're not eccentrically loading, you're not decelerating at all. And so to me, it's kind of like
the wraps are kind of like the pad.
Yeah, the wraps are kind of like the pad. They give you the confidence to just really push as hard as you can. I guess in that analogy, but because I competed several times in wraps, and I was like, I was always afraid of my knees because like I had been an Olympic lifter. I'd strained both VMOs. I'd strained my hamstring multiple times. And I went to wraps for like 3 years in a row competing, and like I was like, I'm never competing in sleeves again. Da, 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 da. And then after this last hamstring strain, I went back to sleeves and like training in sleeves and like introducing pauses and tempos and stuff. Like I feel like I have more confidence in my knees and more confidence in my positioning now in sleeves than I ever did in wraps because I've removed that external variable. And so I think like there is something to say about the importance of like teaching your body how to do that load. And I know people that are really experienced, wrap squatters like
Pat.
Like Pat, like you're used to that motor pattern and you're used to that and all of that. But I think like if you were able to achieve the same thing in sleeves, like that's why they always say like if you're a wrap squatter, you should train in sleeves to build your legs, right? So then it carries over and you actually get something out of the wraps. I think a lot of people miss out on that. They spend too much time in wraps sometimes, like, and I don't know. I think like
you could almost look at it as like a skill aspect though, like in the same way that like if you're planning on competing in wraps, I'm just kind of looking at it from maybe Pat's perspective, where like for me, like I only wear my belt. I'll wear my belt when I take the bar as a warm up, and people look at me kind of dumb for that, because people who do beltless training and think they get carryover from when they go beltless to wearing a belt. And I'm just like, well, if I'm wearing the belt, I just want to get used to wearing the belt, period. So like, I know Pat for a long time, before he even did this, he's never done a sleeve meet, but like, he would just not even wear sleeves, period. He would go up to like 6 plates, 7 plates, bare knee, and then he would fucking wrap up. You know what I mean? So it's like, he would.
And I'm kind of in that mentality as well personally, and that like I like thinking of, and this is because maybe I'm like a purist of some sort, like when it comes to like training, that like I'm training to find out what my body is capable of and push myself. And like, yeah, and when I go to compete, that's when it's like fun to like put a stupid number on, or do something fun, try to place better, get a better total. But like the day in, day out training, I'm trying to like push my body to its capabilities. So for me, like I put my sleeves on, but I leave them like rolled down a lot until I get, I'm not a fucking 800-pound squatter. So I leave them on until like I get above 4.5 plates, and then I'll like roll them up usually. I'm like, okay, I yesterday I was doing my heavy squats, which for you guys is like sets of 8 and 10. But
it's all perspective percentage wise.
I warmed up. Yeah, I warmed up to, I was supposed to do 85% or whatever for 4. And my first set, like I do all my warm ups, and I get to there and I do 1 set at my working weight, and I did it beltless with my sleeves down. I just did that one to prove, all right, I can brace and stack and do all of this. I can do this at least for 1, snappy, just me. Now, when I roll up my sleeves and my belt, I feel really comfortable and confident doing it for 4. I'm going to move more effectively and efficiently because like, hey, like I've already done this the way my body wants to move. And I've been doing this the last 2 years. I haven't closed my belt in like 2 years on my lever belt, because I know bracing was always an issue for me. So I'm trying to teach myself how to brace in more and really dial that down
as a cue. You know what I mean?
Like I use it as a cue. Like one of the things I do before I set my squat is I take my belt and I kind of shake it and wiggle it and put it around like my belly and stick my hands in it so I can feel like where it goes, and I create like that pressure around, and I do like a little hip hinge and lean over to let it hike up on my back. So then it's just like touching me all the way around. And like, yeah, it's probably giving me some support, but Jesus, I've like flipped that belt maybe 5 times in the last 2 years to close it. I've been about the same size. But when I close it and I brace, I feel like I could make myself pass out if I wanted to. And so now, as I'm getting closer to like finally doing a meet again, I'm going to like start closing it in the next 5 weeks and like do lighter and lighter warm-up sets with it to then approximate myself. Cause I feel like that's like a much faster adaptation to make, getting used to like your intra-abdominal pressure. That's not a motor pattern cue change per se. But like your torso doesn't hinge or change angles too much when you squat, right? But your knee does when you're in wraps. And that's where I think there is a difference between like beltless training, sleeve versus, not sleeve, and then wraps, because wraps actually create like a resistance in the motor pattern and will actually shift like your knee position to hip position, right? You have to push into them to maintain the same position because your leg wants to stay straight if you wrapped your knees well. My thought process on Craig, or some people that are these like really huge squads with huge legs, is like, do you really need that extra resistance keeping your leg from closing all the way if you have such huge hams and calves and you're already stacked? And like if your body is meat on meat and you're barely hitting parallel, are like the wraps really giving you that much more than just confidence? I know there is, because there's tension in them and elastic. There has to be something added, but
same idea with what you were just saying with wearing your sleeves half down for some warm-ups and then put them on. Is that really making a difference? But mentally, is it like I'm putting on this piece of muscle armor, right, Pat? Putting on this piece of muscle armor that is gonna, allow me to do more. Is it really doing anything, or is it just kind of turning your brain on to like?
It's like the elbow cuffs and sleeves, right? The elbow cuffs and sleeves really help your bench that much. No, but like they do kind of change like the proprioceptive feedback. If your elbow's painful, makes you disregard that pain a little bit, so you push through it. Maybe you no longer guard that joint as much, so it goes to your natural motor pattern. You're left, so that's what I mean though, is like I think they're useful, but if we're looking at just like pure like the biological adaptation that you're pushing your body towards to get better, like those wraps, other than giving you some extra mechanical tension because you're squatting heavier more consistently, like aren't doing much for you as far as development. And I think it would almost be better to like exhibit that control in sleeves first for a long period, or at least do like a 2-to-1, like 2/3 of your training in sleeves, 1/3 in wraps, kind of a thing. Like, so you have time to acquiesce to skill of wraps, regain the benefit from them. It's no longer just becoming part of your normal motor pattern. It's like, it's now an additive. It's a supplement again versus like an essential thing to your training, right? It's kind of like the idea of supplements in your diet. Like, you supplement to fill in gaps or add above and beyond what you're able to get normally, right? So you get a performance benefit.
My rule of thumb with wraps is throw them on at 75% and above. So you get the you get all the non-wrapped benefits up to 75%. You can do the volume, like all the volume that you do, like at what 65%, 55%, the minimal rest stuff, the higher volume stuff, lots of reps. You're getting it outside of the wraps, and then you go into the wraps for like the doubles and triples, the singles.
Yeah, I would agree. Particularly like in that instance, like if you're going that high in percentages, for us, that's like peaking. Like I don't really let them ever touch much more than 75, 77% until we're in a peaking block.
That training philosophy a little bit there, Sean. Let's delve a little bit as far as what
my training philosophy has changed a little bit over the years, and like Craig and Shane have been the guinea pigs for it. I used to be a huge volume guy. Like, volume is king, and it is. I think volume drives, progress.
That's the name of this one, Pat. Volume is king.
Volume is king.
Yeah.
Volume is king.
Everyone at 100 decibels. Please go to 11. I had to explain that joke to Craig like a month ago. But no, yeah. So I used to be very much volume is king, right? I came from Olympic lifting background. I'd done powerlifting, like USAPL, DUP. And like, I agree. I think volume and like tonnage to an extent is king, as far as like, that's the biggest manipulation variable, right? Because like, you have to pyramid up or trend upwards percentages as you peak and adapt. But like from prep to prep, cycle to cycle, until you're actually in that tapering phase of a peak where you're like really going into, like you said, like triples, doubles, singles, like you have to increase tonnage. And that's what I mean by volume, like your total accumulation of mechanical load, sets and reps. So I used to be, work done. So I used to be really big on like, let's do season of 8s and 10s. I don't think I've had you guys. Shane's been doing some crazy rep schemes lately on his own, but like I haven't really programmed. Yeah, I haven't really programmed 8s and stuff like that more, particularly because as they got so high up in the squat, like what I learned from working with them is like, despite how great of athletes they are, the human body is only tolerant of so much, right? So I had to titrate away from just pure reps to more like moderate intensity, moderate rep schemes. We have to push mechanical load higher on, and volume as far as total rep count lower. That's kind of been the biggest change for both of them over the last 2 years, is like, as they've, entered this new strata of lifter, no longer just 700-pound squatters or 800-pound squatters to like 900 and 1,000. It's like, dude, I can't give you sets of 10 at 600 pounds. Like, that's just way too much wear and tear on the joints. That's so taxing on the nervous system that like, they're not able to recover. And I'm a big fan of part of that volume or, is frequency, right? Like, sticking to that kind of 72-hour range of muscle protein synthesis after training, like try and re-stimulate that every 3rd to 4th day. So they should, like, they're both doing upper and lower sessions, twice a week. We kind of prioritize lately the last couple of years, like more one lift over the other, but they do squat and deadlift on both days, usually in some extent. But like, we'll really favor one lift, like you'll have a squat focus day and have some light technique pulls. Then the next day you might have some warm-up squats that I call like a pre-fatigue, do 2 or 3 sets. And then it's like, all right, this is your deadlift day. And that way, like, their body is used to, it's always squats first and then deadlifts. Like, even if it's a deadlift focused day, typically.
Just like the meat boys.
It's just like the meat. Like, I want your body to be used to that sensation of like your hips are already warm or your back's already fatigued. So like, it's kind of like conditioning work in a different way. But we've really gone more towards, biasing each one of those days to prioritize one of the lifts, versus like they used to do pretty close to like DUP or a blend of DUP and conjugate, having speed squats and then like heavy pulls. And then the next day was, heavy squats and very, very light pulls. We would do that. Now it's like, there's a little more moderation to it. I don't know, without pulling up their Excel sheets and getting right into the nitty gritty of some of their programming stuff, like those are just kind of the general trends that I think have changed over the last 2 years.
And I think they've had a, like you were saying, like the further we've gone up, certain things kind of get phased out, or like we start seeing that maybe this isn't having as much of a benefit as it is taking away, getting, Craig saying his hips and knees getting worn out or whatever else. Craig will do, he squats 100 more pounds than me. I can maybe handle 10s and 8s a little better than he does, but all he needs is the stimulus of 3 sets of 8, and his fucking squat will blow. You know what I mean? By the time he's in prep, he'll be doing 80% for like doubles. You know what I mean? And if you look at a normal Prilipin's chart or something that breaks down that percent, 80% should be something that should be a little more. But
like 4s or 5s almost, if it's a max effort, like 5.
But because that 80% is 800, it's a little different. You know what I mean? Like you said, muscle still muscle, bone is still bone, and it doesn't really, it has to be tweaked to, but I think, like I said, for what you've done with both of ours, it's we've gone a certain direction, but it's become so funneled and specific where the methodology is similar between Craig and I's. But if you look at his program versus my program, they're different because he has different needs and I have different needs, and I react to different things that he does. And Pat just, he just switched over coaching in between these last meets. And so he's gone from a different mindset of, I think, where he used to do a lot kind of, building and volume leading up to his comps kind of peaking like we did. Now he's doing a lot more top end stuff. And I think in some lifts, it's been a little bit of a transition, but like your deadlift, Pat, that's the best your deadlift is. That you're consistently pulling 700 pounds like every week now. Whereas before this last meet, that was like, verified air. It was just to try and get 700. Now you're spanking that shit out every week, dude. Clean.
Yeah. So
let's hear the pros and the cons between your transition between, what you've been doing and what you're doing now.
So there's a massive difference in the two different trainings that I've done. What I did for 6 years with Greg was a lot of volume based. It was fifth set, but kind of like edited because fifth set has
Swede.
Fifth set has Swede, and if you've heard any of the podcasts that Swede's on, he's basically speaking a different language than the people interviewing him. He's using big words and he understands everything almost to a microbiological level. But the fifth set week is broken down into 10-day microcycles, and he's got microcycles, mesocycles, all that jazz. But to be formatted for Train Heroic, which was an online app, it came before Juggernaut AI and RP Strength, that a lot of like personal trainers use just to like blast out $20 programs, booty call, whatever bullshit. But it was 7-day weeks, and Greg edited it down to 4 training days. There was a squat day, bench day, deadlift day, and an accessory day. But what I noticed leading up to the American Pro is getting the reps was more important than the quality of the reps. So I squatted 800 for 6 after it was like a 4x2 at 800, a lot of volume. And the 800 for 6, I'm not completely sure whether or not all of the reps were to depth, which is another reason why, unless it's on the platform, it might as well just be 135. But the quality of reps were low, and that low quality of just get the reps, make sure that you get the reps, don't care about the quality, just make sure that you can muscle everything up, translate it onto the platform. And I went 1 for 3 on squats, and I missed my first 2 squats at 970 due to depth. So my personal standards were just get the reps through any means possible, and those lack standards ended up bringing me to a negative performance.
Negative net result.
Net result.
Now, I have a question. Was that standard of like just get the reps, was that set by you, or was that by like your coach, like basically saying, hey, just get them out whatever way possible, or were you just slopping through things yourself?
It was the negative side of coaching through daddy issues. I was like, I got to do something for Greg to give me any sort of response, give me any sort of acknowledgement that I've done stuff. Like the extent of this isn't meant to badmouth Greg because he brought me to a good point, but the extent of the attention that he paid, his program's like 20 to 25 bucks a month, depending on what Train Heroic is busting his balls about. But basically you get put into a Facebook group, you post your lifts, and it's basically coaching by community. So I was with his team for 5 or 6, 7 years. So I basically got the experience of coaching other lifters through this coaching through community and be like, hey, look at this, look at this. But where I'm at, everyone was too scared to be like, hey, Patrick, you're squatting high. So the only accountability that I was having was whenever I did something crazy like 800 for 6 with a weird camera angle that you can't tell where the depth is. And Greg just comments send so that he could resubmit the video on his own Instagram page to get publicity for his own team and grow the team as a whole. So the standards, it's a lot of it was on me. I could have cleaned it up a bit, but I was just looking for the approval from daddy, basically. It was hard. I would go like 3 to 5 months without talking to Greg. And when he would talk to me, when he would give feedback, it'd always be like, nice set, send me this so that I can share it. And I was like, yes, I did something good. It was basically like, like the dog sat on the floor and you gave him some food, but he also shit while doing it, peed himself, you know?
Yeah. He learned how to sit and give you paw, but he shit in the corner and you're like, send me the video of him giving you the paw. Right. And then, go clean that up yourself or let the dog starve till they eat it, you know?
Yeah. But the positive from that program, though my standards were low, is I always felt like I had a competitive advantage over my everyone else because I was always healthier. I didn't have as many injuries. I was not grinding down to like, I wasn't put together with duct tape going into meet day.
Yeah, so that was what I was going to kind of touch on, is that like the coaching interaction aside, like when somebody is kind of a lower, I don't want to say lower level, that sounds bad, but lower objective weight threshold, maybe like, or even like when we're in more of like a hypertrophy phase, right? And when you're talking about those like, 55 to 70% ranges, I do think there is some benefit of, like just get the reps, right? The minute variation rep to rep in there and difference in mechanical loading. Like this is kind of like the same reasoning why people use chains that sway. You do 8 million variations with a bar. I do cambered bar, I do yoke, I do SSB, transformer, Mars, blah, 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 right? Because we're trying to change like moment arm angles, right? Stress across joints differently. And I think when you're in that kind of hypertrophy phase, that building phase, that is a useful mechanism in that like getting the reps by any means possible, short of injuring yourself, is useful because it does drive, hypertrophy. You do get to just, spread some of that load across angles and slight variations that you wouldn't see usually in like your really refined top end sets when you're peaking, right? But that comes with the caveat of like, you should be cleaning that up as you do peak. And like, those have to become so drilled down that like, it's like breathing or snapping your fingers. It happens the same way every time, whether you think about it or not. Right. So I do think there's some benefit to like slop in hypertrophy training for that benefit only, really. I think, that's one of the big things like I push with almost all my lifters is like right after a meet, like I tell them, I don't want to fucking hear from you for like a month. Like go, like if you're going to go to the gym, don't touch anything over 70%, try to keep your rep scheme, like 8 to 20 reps, do a bunch of accessories, like not even, I don't even expect you to touch a barbell, but if you do, like nothing lower than 8 reps, to force them to auto-regulate intensity a little bit. The idea is like, just go push like blood flow, very light hypertrophy based stuff. And then I'd recommend like after that month, like we should really talk about what are you going to do in the off season. Right. And a lot of them I just push like, go do some bodybuilding, still do the foundational movements. Like I'm a big believer in off season for powerlifting, like still go in, maybe hit like a top 3, at like a 7 RPE, right? Or even a top single at like a 7. Keep relative intensity low, but like use those sets as ways to keep the skill acquisition high, right? Keep the precision of the lifts high on some of those barbell lifts that we're competing with, as far as using straight bar or deadlift bar, and bench, just straight weight, straight bar. But otherwise, like we need to figure out like, how do we just get your body to grow and develop, add tissue, right? Muscle, tendon, ligament, right? Reinforce collagen into like your joints, like help your meniscus like repair and thicken if we can by just putting a lot of blood flow into the capsule. Let your discs like, kind of regenerate and heal, because they do. Like if you give them enough time, they will refill with fluid, and like a lot of these desiccated discs will kind of refill as long as there's not a like an actual like herniation, right?
Yeah.
And even herniation. Well, just like what you're saying with it, it's almost kind of like it's rest. You got to kind of go in and not have the mentality that you got to leave scorched earth in the gym every single day in your 8-month long off season. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing I've figured out. Sean, I haven't had programming really from Sean since February. I've been doing my own thing. Do I bounce all my ideas off of him? What about what I'm going to do? Yes. But like, I also have like just the beginning of this conversation, the autonomy to sit there and do what I feel is good. I'm not going to push myself to the point now where it's like, earlier this summer I was doing that and I was getting run down like a car, dude. Like my back was jacked up, my pec was jacked up, my elbow was jacked up, and I couldn't train efficiently. So I had to really take a step back on all of it and, kind of go off field session to session. And, a lot of it is like, about that. Yeah.
Just having like veto power. Like a lot of times when you send me stuff, I'm just like, no, that sounds dumb. Like, I think you should do this instead, like trade this out for that. And then like, let's be honest, like over like the last several years, like sometimes like Shane doesn't always listen to me. And then sometimes like something like that happens and he asks somebody else, what should I do? And it's like great example. The great example is like sumo, and then training like front squats, like you were doing like SSB front squats and other stuff. And these are all things that we talked about like a year ago. I was like, you should take time off, change motor patterns, like just give your body a break, still push, your musculature in a way, but like give like your joints and like those motor patterns a break, allow them to kind of return to baseline in some way, so then we can actually push on them again, and you get more of a return out of a smaller investment, right? Because that's really ultimately what we're trying to manage on high-end lifters is like, there's only so many times you can do fucking German volume training, and like eventually like that much volume is just not going to be able to be sustainable. You can't spend 6 hours in the gym every day. So it's eventually becomes like a cost benefit ratio of like, what are you doing in the gym versus what are you getting out of it? And sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of the gym, give your body a break, or like start training opposing motor patterns, so to speak. So then that way, like you can reintroduce stimulus in a different way and get something out of it again. And that's one of the reasons I tell them to take like usually like a month off after training is like, let's just let everything return to baseline to some extent. So then that way, when you come in and you do one set of 5, you're getting the same benefit out of that as you did from like, as far as progress forward, as you did from like your top set and 4 back offs, and then all these other accessories and everything else that we did while we were in peak. Because as we got up in peak, like the threshold of stimulus needed in order to make the next approximation gets higher and higher as you adapt, right? But you don't lose all of that in like a month afterwards, but you do return like receptors and basically stress levels to baseline, so then you can kind of restart. I think that's a big important thing. But like to Shane's point of like him doing his own programming, sometimes it takes hearing things from a second source, right? I love Seth, and Seth's been a great person in like Shane's wheelhouse to like bounce stuff off when he's injured. But he said the same stuff, like try sumo, do front squats. And then all of a sudden Shane's like doing sumo and front squats. It's like, well, we talked about this, but you lead the horse to water, but sometimes they got to, drink on their own. And I think that's a big part of like, trying different coaching methods and training. And to kind of tie this all back to where we were talking about with like what's been the biggest difference in training and things so far, and like how like you were with Greg for 6 years. I thought I had earlier was, I think the biggest thing that's been a help of writing their programs and making it better for them over the last several years is I have every program I've ever written for them. And each time I write the next one, I have like multiple screens for my computers, and I have their old one pulled up, and I can see everything we did, right? And I can see like, okay, we were successful at this and this, and like this meet we were better at bench, this meet we were better at squat. This is when we were better at deadlift. And I can try and pick apart and choose what methods maybe worked, and then look at like their tonnage outputs and intensity trends, because everything goes into like Excel graphs with me. And I can see, okay, like, you know, I can't have everything being intensity all the time. Like I still got to manage, like, you know, the best intensity trend they had for a peak. I can kind of blend, but the best predictor of them having a more successful meet is if the meet before was some successful with that program, right? And then I can just kind of blend off of there, because it's, you know, it is predictive in nature. And as long as no other huge variables don't change, like major weight loss, car accidents, injuries, stuff like that, like we can kind of control for a lot of it. And so like the easiest way to make their program better is to see what their last program was. And that's where, like, that's one of the reasons why I don't take a whole lot of clients, because I don't like doing like templates. Like I have
6 years worth of data research to make sure you're at a certain point for everybody.
Yeah, well, it's just like, you know, there was a period in time where I was putting out like 30 programs, you know, every week or two. And like, so I'm spending my entire Saturday, Sunday every week, like updating and sending out Excel sheets for people, and like, you know, not making a whole lot of money off of it because I don't want to charge an arm and a leg to people. But it's like, also I realized like the quality of what I was putting out for a lot of people is impacted by that, because like, you know, I have a full-time job. I can't spend 40 hours a week writing 30 programs like some people can, you know. And but also like a lot of those people like come for a season and they leave. Like they come, they do a meet, and then they leave. They go do their own thing in the off season. So I have no way of knowing, and they'll come back, and it's like, I have no way of predicting what your response is going to be to this new training, because I don't have any data from the prior one, how things came, other than this like isolated meet you did 6 months ago, and then you dipped out on me, you know. So it's like, that's what I think when people are wondering, like, is there a magic program or anything like that? I say, no, nothing I do is magical, or nothing I do is super cool and fancy or whatever. It's just, we've had consistency and tracking and trends that we can then go back and look at, like, okay, we can see this cause and effect in training. And like, I'm lucky to be able to do that, because like, particularly for Shane, is like a Spartan and eats white rice and beef and the same food every single day and sleeps all the time. Craig's a little more varied in that, as far as his food intake and sleep schedule. But for the most part, they don't have other huge life.
Craig's getting a CPAP. Notice to
I know,
the world.
I'm
Craig's
so fucking happy. But the point is, like, there's not huge other stimulus to consider, right? They both have desk jobs. They work in air conditioning. They get to eat all day. They get to sleep regularly. There might be a little difference in like total capacity between the two of them, but particularly both of them live very, you know, not affluent, but lifestyles that are
low stress,
stress, and allow us to usually just make the biggest manipulation is in training and nothing else, right? And so then we've been able to do that for, you know, the last, God, what, 5 years, 6 years now? PB started in 2016. Yeah.
I came in 2017. It'll be 5 years. 5 years in December for me.
Sheesh.
2,300 pound totals don't come overnight, boys. We're all looking at a minimum of at least 5 to 6 years.
My proudest moment was still just that first meet where Craig squatted to depth.
Yeah.
Because when he first came, like, dude, he hated me for, I'm pretty sure Craig didn't like me as a person for like the first 6 months. Like, this fucking nerdy guy just keeps telling me my squats are shit. I'd make him sit to a really low box because he was used to squatting like a fucking giraffe. And it was like, so he was used to squatting 685 or something like that, really, but real high, like fucking not a chance in hell high. And then like I made him fucking sit to boxes with like 315 and 405 and like do like a bunch of sets and reps doing that, and then slowly take away the box, or just like go touch it and then come back up. And like your first meet with me, what, you squatted 800?
804.
Yeah, we put like 100 pounds or so on his squat after like what, less than 6 months, and got it to depth. That was like my, like, it's like, it fucking works. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm so fucking good.
Took a kid from LA Fitness. I mean, I'm almost.
Yeah.
Well, shit, boys. I think that's a good spot to end up and wrap up here. But Dano, I appreciate you coming on, man. These are fun little, like, it's easy, boys. 30. It's a little more than 30 minutes, but just like 30, 40 minute bro talk, and catching up with everyone and just kind of shooting the shit for a bit, man. These are good. So
Pat, I want to see the cats.
yeah, Gigi. Where's Gigi?
Gigi's sleeping on the bed. Are you wearing pants? Okay. Yeah. Let me
I'm wearing pants. I know you guys can't tell because I'm naked on the top, but I am wearing pants.
I'm not wearing pants. I'm gonna grab my cat. Hold
I'm
on.
sitting in my little office here.
Well, I'm wearing pants.
Dude,
All right.
check out how shitty my office looks right now from moving. There's like bullshit.
This is Gigi.
Oh, GG.
She's a tiny little chicken nugget. She's 8 pounds. And the other one over here, if you can even see it, because they're both black.
Yeah, I see the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is Shadow. He's an old man and he's 10 pounds, and I just woke him up.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not swatting at you for holding him like that is amazing.
Oh,
I can't pick either of my cats out.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, Gigi's 8 pounds. Minor is 18 pounds. So we got
18.
Yeah, and she's not fat-ish.
Super heavyweight, boys.
It's just a large cat.
We've got a me-sized cat and a cat the size of my wife. 18 and 8 pound cat.
All sizes are represented.
Yes.
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 Do not discriminate in this household about the size of your pussy. You guys invited me on here. This is your fault. This is your fault. You invited me.
I appreciate you, boys. We'll be doing this here again soon, all right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Anytime.
You boys.
All right.
Boys. See ya.